In this video, we will discuss the gross anatomy of the liver and begin to introduce its functions. The liver is the largest and heaviest solid organ in the body. Typically in men, it weighs between 1.3 and 1.8 kilograms, and in women comes in slightly lighter at 1.2 to 1.4 kilograms typically. It's a soft pinkish brown triangular organ located in the upper right abdomen, just below the diaphragm. So you can see here this blue structure, the muscle that separates the thorax from the abdomen, and the liver just sitting below that diaphragm. The liver just sits above the stomach, just there, and of course the intestines further down. It's the second largest organ in the body after the skin and the largest gland. The liver is divided into 4 different lobes. We've got 2 at the front. You can see in this diagram the right lobe and the left lobe. And at the back, 2 further lobes called the caudate and the quadrate. Of course, this is called the right lobe because it's the right lobe of the patient. And of course, therefore, the left lobe of the patient. These lobes are subdivided into thousands of lobules, and those lobules then are separated by connective tissue. The falciform ligament, this ligament that's shown along here, going down the front and all the way round the back, joining up again, the falciform ligament separates the right lobe and the left lobe from each other. The liver is metabolically very active. What does that mean? Metabolism is the sum of all the chemical reactions that are happening within a particular cell or tissue or organ system, or indeed within a whole organism. The liver is involved in the regulation of glucose levels, amino acid levels, and lipid levels, in the synthesis of bile, plasma proteins, and cholesterol, the synthesis of red blood cells in a growing fetus, the storage of vitamins, some mineral ions such as iron and glycogen, the detoxification of alcohol and drugs, the breakdown of hormones, and the destruction of old or damaged red blood cells. Scientists have found that the liver has 500 known functions. Let's take a look at how the liver is supplied with nutrients and oxygen. If we look at the pulmonary circulation, we see that the deoxygenated blood flowing into the lungs via the pulmonary artery, into the capillaries, then into the pulmonary vein, back into the left-hand side of the heart, out of the left-hand side of the heart via the aorta, and then we've got several branches from the aorta. The branch going to the liver is called the hepatic artery. The word hepatic is associated with the liver. So the oxygenated blood going into the liver is via the hepatic artery. We've got this branch here called that is several branches in fact, that is providing oxygenated blood to the stomach, the pancreas, the large intestine, and so on. And that blood, after it goes through those organs, returns to the liver via the hepatic portal vein, via this vessel here. The oxygenated blood and the relatively deoxygenated blood in the hepatic portal vein mixes together within the liver. Those vessels then join up to form the hepatic vein, which empties deoxygenated blood into the vena cava, which then returns the blood back to the right-hand side of the heart. Let's take a look at that in a little bit more detail. So we've got oxygenated blood coming via the aorta. We've got a branch here of the hepatic artery. Remember, A for artery, A for away from the heart. So this is an artery carrying blood away from the heart. towards this liver. We've then got several other branches, one going to the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, the small intestines, and of course the colon. And when blood has passed through each of those organs, it then joins up to form the hepatic portal vein, which then supplies relatively deoxygenated blood to the liver. When that blood moves through the liver, the branches of the hepatic vein form together to form the hepatic vein, which then empties deoxygenated blood into the inferior vena cava, which carries that blood back to the left-hand side of the heart. The hepatic artery, we can see on this diagram, the hepatic artery coming along here, feeding the liver with oxygen-rich blood. The blood that's coming into the liver here is about 98% saturated with oxygen. The total volume of blood coming into the liver via the hepatic artery is roughly about 30% of the total coming in. And it's roughly 25% of the cardiac output. So about 25% of the blood that comes out of the heart via the aorta is actually is supplied into the liver directly. And of which 30%, this is about 30% of the blood that comes into the liver then. It supplies oxygen-rich blood, and of course, as we've just mentioned, the liver cells are very metabolically active, and therefore they require lots of oxygen for active processes, such as respiration. Therefore, liver tissue are extremely highly metabolically active, and therefore they have a high demand for oxygen. In addition to the hepatic artery, we've got the hepatic portal vein. This time, using a different colour, the hepatic portal vein, you can see several branches from the gastrointestinal tract. So blood coming along here, forming the hepatic portal vein, supplying blood to the liver. Of course, this is a vein because it's returning blood back towards the heart. It's responsible for the remaining 70% of the total blood entering the liver, and it's relatively deoxygenated. It's about 78% saturated. But we call this blood substrate-rich blood. It contains lots of products of digestion, lots of glucose, lots of amino acids, etc. So it contains a wide variety of chemical compounds at a whole variety or variable concentration. Sometimes the concentrations are a long way off their optimum, and it's the liver's job then to regulate these levels by diluting or by concentrating certain compounds. The third vessel associated with the liver is the hepatic vein. The hepatic vein carries deoxygenated blood from the liver then back to the vena cava. So you can see, if I draw on to this diagram, the hepatic vein returning back into the vena cava, which is then returned to the heart, and then out of the systemic circulation into the pulmonic in order to be oxygenated again and therefore be useful. So, to summarise using another diagram, we've got the liver, we've got the falciform ligament, you can see under here, separating the right and the left lobes. You can see the gallbladder on the underside of the liver, just here. You can see here the hepatic artery, so the oxygen-rich blood entering the liver. The hepatic portal vein, you can see here the substrate-rich blood also entering the liver. And you can see here that we have the hepatic vein coming out of the liver and feeding back into the vena cava and ultimately back to the heart.